Put the food down now, because this video is going to be unpleasant. Why put up a viewer discretion advised banner when I can say it myself? We're just going to jump right in. Rat kings. If you've never heard of a rat king, you're probably picturing something like this. A little rat in a hat. Cute. Nah, a real rat king is much worse, and there's some pretty nasty pictures that I'm going to be showing you, just to warn you. On a very rare occasion, groups of 3 to 30 rats have gotten tangled together at the tails, forming what is called a rat king, where the only way out is death. Only about 60 rat kings have been seen in the last 500 years, and for the majority of that time, this phenomenon has been met with an enormous and healthy amount of skepticism, that maybe these weren't natural occurrences, but were actually made by people. And there's plenty of reasons to believe either take, but today I'll be showing you video evidence that this cryptic legend dating back hundreds of years is at least sometimes true. But first, a little bit of lore, like where the term rat king comes from, because rat king is not quite the life of luxury you'd expect. Turns out the name is pretty loaded. A rat king is supposed to represent the evilness and filth of royalty. It's translated from the German term rattenkönig, which was first used as an insult towards people who live off of others, like a leech or mooch. And Martin Luther used it to insult the Pope. He said, "Finally, there's the Pope, the king of rats, at the top." And apparently there used to be a legend that wise elder rats would sit on the tails of young rats, and they would get knotted and stuck together. This rat was treated like royalty, with working class rats bringing him food, eventually becoming the rat king. It's not clear whether that and the Pope insult are connected, but the term rat king has shown up a few different times under a few different circumstances. And the rat king that we're talking about has been used as a symbol over the years to represent people forced to live in crowded cities, or royalty feeding off of the working class. And of course, during these ages of witchcraft and wizardry, they were considered bad omens of a plague coming. Black rats already had a pretty nasty reputation to begin with their perceived involvement in the Black Plague and all, which I'm not going to get into. I don't want to be political, but now they're showing up in bunches with their tails tied together. I mean, fuck. They were pinned to walls and put on display in the middle of villages, with people fearing what was to come. If I was alive then, I would have been acting like that too. Dude, I would have thought that came from Satan himself. And they did. They did think that. A writer named Julius Wolff wrote, "In the mayor's cellar sits Satan in guise, a huge rat ball with infinite legs, 100 heads, 1,000 tails." All right, this feels like language arts now, but it's important for context. So, the bad omen thing led a lot of them to be burned or destroyed somehow, of course. So the evidence that we have of them is not great. The first documented description of a rat king comes from 1564 in a book by a Hungarian historian named Johann Szembukis. I hope I didn't butcher that pronunciation. He described the occurrence of a living rat king made up of 7 rats, but he didn't call it a rat king, he just described it. And since then, about 60 other rat kings have been recorded. Some of those are believed to be fabricated, but all of them have some interesting things in common. All, except for one, were of the species Rattus rattus, the black rat. And the vast majority of rat kings have been found in Central and Eastern Europe, specifically Germany. Weird. Those two things will make a bit more sense once I tell you the most likely assumption of how rat kings are formed. Since no one has ever seen one form, we can only guess. I would hope that nobody's ever seen one form. The idea is that the rats must be huddled together for a long time. Black rats have tails with a grasping reflex that must get knotted together over time, becoming a bit stuck, and then mixed with urine and blood and sebum, which is a filthy word to describe the oil on our face, just saying. It becomes impossible to undo, and they just die. It's probably really stressful and painful. And where these rat kings have been found lines up with that, typically in cramped spaces in the winter months, where they're probably huddled together for a long time to keep warm. And Central and Eastern Europe have weather that lines up with this, and black rats are found there in high concentrations. But they're also found in North America now, where weather is similar, and there are currently no recorded rat kings. And at least one other species has a grasping or prehensile tail, the prehensile-tailed rat, which took over the whole Google search. Every different way I tried to search rat species with a grasping tail, it gave me that one. So I don't have answers for you. I'm sorry. It's probably because black rats are more associated with human settlements and other species. I don't know. I'm currently not well versed in rat diversity, but I digress. A lot of people were not a fan of that formation assumption, and zoologists over the years deemed it possible, but highly unlikely. Like, how could it not get that bad before some attempt to escape it or just chew it off? So plenty of people thought the whole thing was a hoax. That with how popular they turned out to be, being displayed in town squares where you'd have to pay a fee to see them, people were just making them themselves. Scallywags looking to make quick cash. And you can't put that past humans. Remember that fish with crab legs TikTok that went viral this year? People suck. But that idea was fishy too. Since some were found living, how could that be possible? It would be literally impossible to do that to living rats. Despite this uncertainty, a handful of rat kings have been on display in museums for hundreds of years. One museum curator explained it was presented as a natural phenomenon, that whether you think it's real or fake, the formation of it is inexplicable. And that mystery of it created the buzz that it has today. They've appeared in video games like The Last of Us and Destiny, shows like Teen Wolf, movies like The Nutcracker, which seems honestly a bit brutal for a kids movie. Wait, I think I've only seen the Barbie version when I was like 5. Never mind. I don't know what the Nutcracker's about. And tons of books that I don't really want to list. People also have tattoos of them. They're all over the place. Also, before I forget, this is not the only species that kings happen in. Squirrel kings exist and are even more common than rat kings, and they've been primarily found in North America. Squirrel kings have to do with young squirrels getting mixed up with tree sap and other materials in their nest. So, back to rat kings. The largest rat king to ever be found had 32 rats in it and is currently on display at a museum in Germany. It was found in 1828 in somebody's chimney in a small town nearby, and it's pretty tough to look at. And I could go on to list the other museum displays, but at this point, I'm sure what you probably want to see most is the video evidence that I promised at the beginning of the video. I have 2 videos to show you of 2 separate rat kings that were both discovered in 2021 in 2 separate places. The first that I'll show you was found in the fall of 2021 in Estonia. It was found in a chicken coop in a rural. Why'd they make it that? Rural. In a rural area. It was made up of 13 rats. The Natural History Museum nearby offered to take it to research it, since finding a living one was a pretty big deal, but ended up deciding to euthanize them to end their suffering. Luckily, the other one has a happier ending, and was found earlier in the year in August of 2021 on a landowner's field in Russia. As you can see, it was made up of 5 small rats, and it was found grabbing onto some vegetation in a flooded field. Luckily, the landowner was able to untie the knot and let the rats free. And to be honest, I hope that's where our understanding of rat kings ends. If you like the video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next long form video coming out next week. And if you want to stay connected with my daily short form content, you can find me on TikTok and Instagram. But for now, stay curious. The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya!